Kevin, I am thrilled that you are here for this edition of Voices of Stack. And I'm excited for our community to get to know you and your journey. So let's get started. What compelled you to learn web development?
Well, I guess it would start back in college, really. Going into school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I ended up, majoring in business management. But towards my senior year, or it was my senior year, I had some extra elective kind of courses I needed to take, and I ended up taking a introductory to Python.
Mm,
And it was my senior year, so it's just kind of an extra course I took. It really wasn't going to amount to much. But I just remember at the time after completing it that I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a really cool class. Me and my friend actually took it together and we, worked on a project together during it. And it was just something different than all the business classes that I had been taking. It was still kind of in the back of my mind. And, right when COVID hit, I had to move back home. I was still doing the job that I got out of school.
yeah.
And I kind of just decided at that point that, I didn't know if that was really the road I wanted to continue to go down. And, I still had that computer programming class in the back of my mind. And I kind of just decided to start messing around online, looking at courses, and all the free time that we had. It just got to a point where I decided that, I think I can pursue this fully and try to, really go all in and learn it and make it a,
Yeah.
a career. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the process.
Well, I was going to say your story is so common for so many college graduates who, you're forced to like choose a degree pretty early on, right? And how do you know what you want to do, right? Like
Right.
when you
Yeah.
chose business management, right? It sounded like a nice catch-all, could lead to a good job, right? That because you were
Mhm.
particularly excited about one aspect of business or an industry. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely don't regret doing it at all. Because still having that, that
Sure.
major, I learned a lot, and the job I got out of school was great, like, professional
Sure.
experience that I was able to learn from it, but ultimately, I could always tell that there was a little bit something to be desired in terms of the career path that I was going down.
And thank goodness you took that intro to Python course. That it sounds like it was
Yeah.
just a random, elective that you had left. And it was a good time to explore. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, learning the web development. What was the hardest thing about learning web development? And how did you overcome the inevitable hiccups that happen when you're learning what can be a really challenging skill like this?
I would say the hardest thing to me might not even have been, learning the actual technical skills
Mm.
itself, but was kind of navigating how do I even start to try to learn this stuff. It was just, overwhelming amount of information when you hop on that Google search and just search how to become a web developer. There's so many different things,
Is that what you
you
put
know,
into search? How to become a
yeah,
web? That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of results that pop up and it could be, an overwhelming amount to choose from. So really ultimately it just came down to me, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go. And I just looked up the top rated course and I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop searching. I'm just going to do this one. And I kind of realized at that point, like, it's just always better to be doing something than nothing at all.
Um, let's talk about the professional acceleration part of the program. So there are definitely tons of classes out there that teach you just the technical skills. But the program that you've gone through had both the technical skills as well as the professional acceleration, and we call it the soft skills, which are truly the harder skills, right? Why was that important to you?
Well, I would say they can be easy to overlook because it's kind of stuff you think would just come naturally, but that's not
Mm,
always the case.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, all businesses are people. So you're going to need those interpersonal skills. You're going to need to know those time management skills, how to communicate with other people, because they are important. They're important in interviews. They're important when you're on the job and you're interacting with your manager and you have to figure out exactly, what they're asking of you and making sure, you can communicate effectively with everybody around you. Can only That's kind of the foundation that makes you a good employee.
That's
So
so wise of you, Kevin. And I was just thinking about this. I think one of your points of differentiation and a competitive advantage, in your career shift is that you had that business background. And not only that, but you had a business background that really required you to interact with people, right? Whether it's your employees, your peers, or customers, you always had to be interacting. So you already saw the value of it. And you knew that even with your technical skills now as a dev, it's not like you work in complete isolation, right? You have to work with your manager, you have to work with other engineers, other product folks, eventually, and sales folks. And so for you, you see the value in that, which is really great. Let's talk about career coaching. So, our program, we have both the technical skills as well as our professional acceleration, the soft skills. And then after that, there is, 12 weeks plus of career coaching. What advice do you have for people who have access to group career coaching as you did in this program?
Yeah, that's actually the career coaching too is something that, you're kind of going through the course and you kind of forget about because you're so,
Yeah.
you're just so in about learning the coding and going through and making all the projects. You kind of forget, oh, I need to get a job after this, like I need to go through that whole process.
Yeah.
So, ending the course and still having support afterwards is
Yeah.
amazing. Having still a structure and a commitment that you need to stick to as motivation can really help you because it does feel very daunting once you're done to start sending out these applications and, hoping that you're ready. But, having other people that are doing the same thing,
Yeah.
same as when you were going through the camp, now it just adds to your motivation and that to your confidence.
It's so true, right? Like, so many people have said what you've said, Kevin, which is like, you're so focused on like learning the skills and you're just trying to like keep your head above water and trying to keep up with everything. And you forget that the purpose of you doing this for the most part is that you're trying to change your career and you're trying to get a new job. And
Yep.
then it comes and you're like, oh, okay, now I have to actually get this job. Okay. All right. Okay. This is a little intimidating. But again, like you said, thank goodness that there is structure to this program. So we are down to our last two questions. And these are questions that I ask everyone. What advice, and I know you're still very early in your career, but what advice would you give to your younger self? And you can choose whatever age that your younger self is, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say that, if you find, there's a ton of technologies out there, there's a ton of languages, ton of frameworks. If you find one when you're kind of going through your kind of journey that you really like, I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe spending a little bit more time on something, really try to dive deep and become maybe like an expert on one thing, because you spend a lot of time going over a lot of stuff at, high to medium levels to get
Yeah.
to a point where you could be employable. But, you know, I feel like you unlock something else in your brain when you kind of dive into one technology fully
Yeah.
and you can really fully understand it. It kind of, in a way just helps you unlock like something else. It's kind of hard to explain, but I
No.
wish I kind of maybe started earlier, just kind of, while I was learning all the other stuff, but maybe just stuck with one, two for a longer period and tried to just learn it all the way through type of thing.
I love that advice. I love this idea of not only sticking with something, but that when you can stick with something long enough, it can unlock something else that you can't even anticipate.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. Last question. For someone who is at an inflection point professionally, what advice do you have for them to navigate that inflection point successfully?
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely feels like, you know, the first part of my journey now learning is done. And now I'm
Mhm.
starting the second part. And, when I started, I thought, oh, when I got my job, that was going to be it. Then I've made it and I'll be okay and everything. But it's
Yeah.
really like just the preface of the journey. And now, like, really, like the fun can begin because you can start doing it professionally. And, it really is a career where you're going to be learning every single day and you're not going to know necessarily what to do every single day, but that's part of like the process of software engineering.
What's profound about what you said, Kevin, is that essentially what you're saying is you are in this constant mentality of curiosity. And in order to be okay with the constant process of learning and not get frustrated or impatient, you have to be in a constant state of curiosity. And
Yes.
so um, I think you are lucky because you found a career that very much embraces a constant state of learning and a constant state of curiosity. Kevin, thank you so much. I know that there are so many people in our community out there who are, either navigating their first inflection point or their second or third one that will be inspired by your story and your journey. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate it.